Hey everybody, it's me, Rox, and well, you might see what this is, and you might be going, oh, I think I see the pattern. You're right, the pattern is Mecha. Um, so I love Mecha, and this month starts with M, and Mecha also starts with M, so this is my Mecha anime tier list. No, but all seriousness, I have watched far more shows since the last time I made this video, and my opinion has changed on some of them. So today I'll be breaking down what, like, you know, I'll be breaking down what I like about them. I think I'm gonna lean more towards the personal aspect rather than overall quality, but I'll obviously try to give you a heads up if I'm leaning a little too personal. You'll probably hear it in my voice. You guys know what this is about. I try to be objective and give you the honest opinion, but hey, I'm human, so as you can probably guess, that's a little hard sometimes. Anyway, alright, let's do this. We're going to be starting off with Voltron. Yes, Voltron, not Go Lion, not whatever the Japanese version is called. I understand that. I get it. I fully recognize that it is an adaptation, but it's a classic. Nothing else to be said. I had a lot of fun with it as a kid. It holds up relatively well today, and I mean, it didn't completely blow up in its last season, unlike another Voltron show. So, yeah. I think we're gonna start today off with, honestly, maybe a solid C tier. Alright, next one. Mazinger Z. Original Mazinger Z. I'm talking original. Right? The OG Mecha of OG Mecha. You go any older than this, and you're literally looking at Tetsujin 28, and that's it. This is the grandfather of Mecha. It is the grandfather of Mecha. Okay? This is where a lot of the tropes come from. And guess what? The show holds up actually quite well. It's obviously not the greatest thing in the world. It's a 1972 anime. But it holds up surprisingly well. It's surprisingly fun. It's a bit darker than what you would expect from a TV show at the time. And on top of that, it has a nice character journey with the main character. Obviously, not every episode is a banger. I do need to say this, that every episode is inconsistent. And it's not every episode is going to be hitting up to the standards you would like it to, but when it does have a really good episode, you truly understand that it is a good episode. Also, on top of that, Koji's dynamic with Sayaka is interesting. It's not the best version of it. We'll get into some later adaptations that I believe do it better, but it is a solid show, and, to basically kick off the mecha boom, I'd say it's kind of almost worth a B tier. Next is Mazinger Z versus the Great General of Darkness. Okay, so this movie, obviously you need to watch Mazinger Z in order to understand it, but basic gist of it is, this movie is really good. It's engaging. It's dreadful. It has a nice show of suspense and tension. And okay, yes, you go, oh, Koji's not gonna die, but you do care about Mazinger Z if you've seen the show, right? So naturally getting attached to the super robot only to see it completely demolished against the Great General's forces, it leads to you going, oh shoot, we're kind of at the end of our ropes. How is Koji going to pull out of this? Combine the fact with all this happens on Koji's birthday, you really do feel the empathy for the main pilot, which is exactly what you want in a show. On top of that, Great Mazinger's reveal is done really well. It's obviously, since it is a movie, it naturally has a higher budget than the TV show, meaning the animation is also a step up. And honestly, everything about it is just slightly better than the TV show, but the TV show has the benefit of overarching storytelling. but it doesn't fully utilize that, which means that I personally think that the Great General of Darkness is above it. Now getting into Great Mazinger. Great Mazinger is an improvement over Mazinger Z. Um, More story arcs, more character development. It's oddly enough, it's like the same level of maturity, which is kind of nice. And don't really, uh, I don't really see a reason to not watch it if you're watching Mazinger Z. It's a nice sequel. It, completes with the original, but obviously Mazinger Z just generally has more staying power because it is like the first mecha anime. Next one, Grandizer. Basically, it's the third sequel. This time, though, it's a very unique story. Um, I haven't seen that much of it, but from what I have seen, it's maybe a little lighter than Mazinger Z and Great Mazinger, which doesn't really help its case because something I like about the two shows is that people can die, and people did die. Bodies could drop, and that just doesn't feel as notable as in Grandizer. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule. Every rule has an exception, but it's not exactly gonna wow me the same way. Anyway, Kaiser. Alright, Kaiser is a good reimagining of Mazinger Z. It adapts some plot points from the original Mazinger Z manga. It has a very similar climax to the manga and is basically a reimagining, but this time with Kaiser. And it's quite engaging. Animation is also really fantastic. It holds up surprisingly well for when it came out. And I have no doubt that if you're looking for a Go Nagai like mecha anime to get into, this is probably one of your easier bets. So I would honestly give it an A tier. And Mazen Kaiser versus the Great General of Darkness. The one thing is, if you're watching this, you're watching the OVA first. You're never gonna just watch the movie, right? But like, I get it is worse, which the letdown of it being worse kind of sours the I guess it sours the overall feeling, right? Because you go from the OVA to the movie, and the OVA is not even that long, so it kind of makes you wonder what happened, right? Now, to be fair, there is like a 2-year gap between the development, but the fact that there is a 2-year development gap, and it not only looks worse than the OVA, but at the same time, it feels like the writing has taken a nosedive, and they've adopted the trope that unfortunately was started by a lot of shows at the time, which is just go. Like, just go. Just roll with it. You just have to roll with it, which, can leave it to the detriment. Like, we get introduced to characters who die, and it's like, bro, why do we care? Like, I know who they are, but I also have read, I've also read the Mazinger Z manga, Great Mazinger manga, Grandizer manga, Shin Mazinger Zero. Like, I've read tons of Mazinger manga, so I know who all those characters are. But the average person, no, they're not going to. Even the average mecha fan, I don't expect them to do that. So then when it introduces these characters to kill them off, to give a greater sense of danger, that's all it gives off. You're not, oh, this sucks, they died. It's, oh, shoot, robots are getting blown up. I guess that means the enemy's strong, Next is SKL, and SKL is way too edgy for its own good. Man, okay, anime... You know what? No, maybe C2. So animation is good. I do like the show. But bro, tone it down. You can literally see in the poster, both characters are wearing leather jackets. And when they're orphans who drink with leather jackets, knives, tattoos, and they don't take smoke from anyone, and they smoke in the cockpit of their machine. And that picture right now, imagine the most stereotypical, edgy character. Like, imagine I just said all that, right? Now imagine that, and that's it. Like, that's their whole character. That's literally their whole character, you know? And I'm not trying to say this as like, oh, you smoke your, but like you know the personality associated with that kind of stuff, right? That it's literally just that stereotype. Like, that's literally all it is. That's this whole OVA. It's not great, but the animation is good, and that's about it. I don't really like the show. Next is Mazinger Z Edition, or Mazinger Edition Z: The Impact. This is probably one of the best mecha shows. To be frank, it takes everything you like about Mazinger Z, updates it for a modern audience. It has greater storytelling, greater story arc. And it's also just a solid show. Like, it's just a solid mecha show. It's just a solid show in general. It has even better character work for Koji, a good dynamic with Sayaka. You care about the side cast, memorable fight scenes, fantastic animation. This show holds up so well for a show that came out in 2009. The only flaw I can really have with it is that there's no English dub, and that's it. But like, here's the thing: Funimation can like do that in like, you know, like, that's not a major flaw when Funimation tomorrow could decide, hey, yo, we're gonna dub this. And like, I'm obviously over exaggerating, but if the main flaw of the show is that there's no dub, meaning it's not gonna reach as wide of an audience, I think it's pretty good. Anyway, Infinity. Oh man, I love Infinity, but I'm a Zinger Z fan. That should be evident by the fact I've seen all this, right? So I have to bump it down a tier just because it only works if you've seen Mazinger Z stuff. Like, it can't be S tier at that point. It is good, right? It's really good. But if you have not seen Mazinger Z, or you could honestly get by with Edition Z and then just like fill in the gaps with your brain. Like, it's a good movie. It's a solid movie. The emotional climax of the Mazinger Z saga. You know, they have great Mazinger. Also, the 3D animation is in the movie is utterly fantastic. I'm not a fan of CGI in Mecha, but they pulled it off really well here. So yeah, I would recommend it if you're a fan of this show. But if you're a fan of the show, you've probably also seen it. So, but yeah, good emotion, good climax, good action, everything. The only flaw is you need to watch this in order to understand that, right? And to be fair, you could get by with just watching this, but you know, you try. Oh boy, Eureka 7. Oh, you thought, Matt? Oh boy. You thought Mazinger Z was all over the place? Oh boy. I hope you guys are ready for Eureka 7. Alright. So, I like Eureka 7 a lot. I do. I think it provides a lot of value. And getting a good glimpse into what anime was like during the early 2000s. On top of that, it makes full use of its 50 episode run. It provides an engaging story. It provides engaging characters. The romance is actually pretty wholesome between our two leads. And honestly, the side cast, well, most of them could do with some work. The main knockouts like Holland and his girlfriend are really good and provide a lot of depth to the story along with a lot of intrigue. Now, it does get a little complicated, so be forewarned, but it's not, I'm not saying it's complicated enough that you won't understand it. It's far more than just like, oh, we gotta save the environment from this evil bad guy by using the power. Like, there's far more to it going on, which, to be fair, I also really appreciate, but just be forewarned, it's not as kidsy as you would like to imagine. Next is the movie. So, like, all these things, I'm gonna point this out, all of these are, like, on their own different timelines and, like, multiverse and whatever. So, stuff is gonna get real weird really fast, so just roll with it, guys. Um, you no. Oh no. No. Yes. All right. Character work good, but it's a movie about a Rekka 7 where their idea is, hey, what if we just remake the show? And it's like, but sir, this film is under 2 hours and there's 50 episodes of content. And he's like, yeah, we're going to do that anyway. And it's like, shoot. Well, can we do at least something unique? Oh yeah, go for it. Make it unique. Just have it like hit similar beats. All right, sir, we'll try. And that's literally the best way to describe it. It's similar to the show in feeling, but it doesn't execute it as well because it has not enough time. And everything about it is boiled down to, that's kind of cool. That's like the TV show. That's some solid animation. And the character work is alrighty. Like, it's a downgrade from the show once again in every single way. And yeah. Speaking of downgrade, its sequel. Ow. It's not that good of a show, man. Like, I'm just gonna be frank. Characters are boring. Like, bro, you have Ereka's kid. That's real. I feel like you should actually, like, okay, we obviously meme on Boruto all the time. To be fair, I don't hate Boruto, but like, I feel like this Boruto and like the Seven Deadly Spins and all, this is why people like kind of get mad whenever they see like, oh, your kid is gonna be the new main character of this, you know? And like, that's like, stuff like this is one of the reasons why he's boring. Like, how? Bro, you're like a quarter alien. How are you boring? Like, how? And then the other characters around you, are they at least interesting? No. So then how? Like, you know, the show's not dynamic enough to provide like a really like engaging plot, and it gets really complicated, and then they bring the multiverse into it, and or alternate universes and stuff like that, and it just gets to the point where it's like, okay, cool, but I'm not gripping to the characters, so there's no real connection. The only connection you have is that, well, this is an Eureka 7 sequel, right? Oh, High Evolution. Oh boy. I mean, no, actually no. The beginning is really nice. The rest of it is a clip show of a TV show that came out in 2005, and this film came out in 2017. I feel like that should describe it, you know? And then number 2 is there, or number 3, sorry. The main bond between the Rekka and the kid is kind of wholesome. It also gets a little weird. I don't know what these people were doing, man, but they were not writing. They were doing something else. And I just kind of, yeah, it gets needlessly complex for what essentially boils down to, hey, Renton's dead. What? And then you go, okay, cool, and everything else is like falling apart and going ballistic, and you're like, great. Speaking of going ballistic, I might go ballistic if I talk about this film for too long. Straight up, I almost like, you know what? No, this is happening. This is happening. I am doing this live. I do not care. I hate this film. Just no. Just no. Like, just straight up no. This film is garbage. Okay? Listen, you gotta be, like, real brave in the writer's room to be like, hey guys, I know we're all professional writers, but hear me out. What if we have a subplot about Inamine? And then they all go, yeah, that's fine. She's an interesting character, right? She was interesting. Okay, but we set it in the real world. What? What do you mean? Like a prequel? No. So we set it in, like, our world. And then we, like, have, like, Eureka be, like, the main villain. Oh, okay, so it's, like, from her perspective. And, like, all this. No, it's not a prequel. It's the main timeline. What do you mean main timeline? Well, see, sir. We're gonna make all other versions of Eureka 7 uncanon. And we're gonna combine them and say that this was all of these alternate universes are caused by Eureka dreaming. Because in the main timeline, Renton died. And then, but not actually. He didn't actually die. He did die, but he didn't actually die. And then Eureka is like sad, and she like dreams in alternate universes where the world is happy together. Even though if you look at the alternate versions, they all collectively kind of suck except for the main continuity. Because, okay, I'm breaking character. Bro, in the manga, straight up just Eureka dies and leaves Renton alone? Like, bro, this stuff ain't good. Like, and then it's like, even if you like that bittersweet ending, bro, that just got uncannoned. Imagine uncannon your existence. Like, bro, how do you uncannon an entire franchise? And like, this should tell you, bro, the original show is fine. Just stop. Like, okay, I don't know what they did with High Evolution, but why was it so hard to just not mess everything up? Like, bro, you literally uncannoned the show. Why? Why did you do that? Why did you feel the need to uncannon the thing that people like? Oh my lord. It was so bad. And the rest of the film ain't even that good. Because guess what? This is also a garbage trilogy in the terms of like a trilogy. None of these fit together nor make any sense, and they all are they all just feel like different movies. Like, one's like post-apocalyptic, one's a bloody clip show of a 2005 TV show, and then the other's like a road trip movie with like action and drama. It's like, what? Like, and okay, do they connect together through plot points? I mean, technically they do. Technically they sure do. They sure do connect, but it ain't in the right way. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I hate this film. But I'm also an Eureka 7 fan. Like, if you just watch this trilogy, I don't know, you might actually like it, but at the same time, the film would make no sense because you wouldn't be an Eureka 7 fan, so you would have no idea what's going on. Anyway, Get a Robo Arc. I like Arc. It's pretty good. Animation do be kind of bad though. I'm not gonna lie. For like a show that came on like the 2020 era of animation, bro, Demon Slayer exists now. Like, and I know, it's unfair to compare everything to Demon Slayer, but like, bro, this don't look good. I'm sorry, but like, the fact that these three shows came out between this one, 2001, 2005, 2009. Bro, all of them collectively look better than Get a Robo Arc. Even at like some of their worst moments. And like, here's the thing. CGI is very hard to get right in a mecha show. And they do try. I do see the effort. I see the effort with my eyes. But like, care and quality are not the same thing, right? They tried really hard. The story is really good, but it doesn't look that great. Also, man, I'm giving it, you know what? I'm giving it extra brownie points. That's why it's at the top of B. The ending of this show is so bittersweet because, okay, lore time. The author of Get a Robo died while writing Get a Robo Arc. So I don't know if he died during, basically, the ending never got finished, right? So this anime has the monumental task of, well, ending it, right? Ending Get a Robo Arc, ending the final chapter in this final saga of Get a Robo. And it, well, succeeded. The ending was really good. And obviously this has a very high entry point because you need to read Get a Robo, like the Get a Robo manga. Like, you can't just substitute it with even the TV shows. But just that ending alone, bringing completion to something that nearly seemed uncompletable, is just awesome. And I'm really glad that they were able to pull through on that. Anyway, enough happy stuff. Let's talk about fighting dinosaurs. Um, this this is fun. It's a fun show. Um, Character work is not great, but it's fun. It feels like Get a Robo, but it's slightly more positive than normal because Get a Robo is kind of dark, and this is more bright, which I like. Not, I'm not trying to imply that it's better, but the lighter tone for a Get a Robo does mean it's like naturally easier to digest. Also, it just kind of like gives you all the necessary information to enjoy the ride. Like it's not, you don't need to know a lot about Get a Robo. Like, to be honest, this could be your first series and you'd be fine. If anything, it would make things less confusing. Because you would just kind of nod your head and go, yeah, okay. It was just kind of work. Oh, new Get a Robo. Man, this show is really good. It's really good. It's probably the closest adaptation we have to an official, to the original Get a Robo manga. Obviously, it has some major changes, but it also feels like the manga. Thankfully, it captures that energy, and the manga is really, really good. I know I'm griping on that, but like, it's really good. So, catching that same energy and having the same bombastic and slightly crazy characters, it just provides a really enjoyable ride. On top of that, the action is really good, and the mystery around the Geta Rays is really fascinating. And the arc where Ryoma Nagare, big buff man, runs away like Shinji Ikari was actually really well done. But yeah, so I did enjoy the series. I think it's a really good introduction to Get a Robo in particular. And even Mecha, I feel like it'd be a very solid starting point. Next is Get a Robo Armageddon. Man, I love this show. It's so good. It's so bombastic. It is this primal maximum. I'm trying to think of like other words that you would it's a bomb. Like, imagine an explosive in mecha form, and then combine that with an actual good story and animation, and also developing characters and plot twists. So, the weakest aspect is definitely the character development. They do not develop as much as you think they would, in given the situation and what happens to them. But the twists do provide them with enough challenges that make them question and change themselves as a character, just not to the extent that you would assume from a 13 episode OVA. However, where it really shines is just general energy, and on top of that, soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack perfectly matches the show. I don't really go over this too often, but Mecha just in general has really good soundtracks. I've noticed that. If I'm not trying to flex or anything, but there is also the people called Jam Project who do a lot of the openings, and they provide a bombastic energy to what essentially amounts to most super robot shows. They do some real robot, but mostly super robot. Jam Project really likes their openings, and that's a good gateway into how they are perceived. And to be fair, that perception is kind of warranted because the high energy, high stakes shows are exactly what Get a Robo is. And it provides that in such a solid, well-rounded package where even the worst flaw being like the character development, basically boiling down to it's not that great, but it's serviceable. So everything else is utterly amazing. And then the character development is just okay. So that would naturally bump it up extremely high. But add on top of that, the first 3 episodes provide such an engaging hook for a show that it just makes you want to continue watching, and it is just a thrill ride from beginning to end. And whereas a lot of shows take time getting good, this show gets good and then gets good and then still is good. Like, it provides such a good hook that you want to keep watching it and you have an enjoyable ride the entire time. So ease of ease of ease of watch, basically watchability up there at nearly maximum. Animation awesome for its time, and on top of that, uh, I don't want to give too many brownie points, but the dub is amazing in this show. It captures the energy of the original Japanese so well. But yeah, so I would say it's our next S tier. Infinite Stratos as a whole. Um, all the OVAs are kind of bad. Um, and then season 1 and 2 are kind of like, they're fun but not great. I watched them with my friends, to be fair, and like, nah. And like, okay, we had the most fun watching this show together, not because like it's the best show we've seen together, because keep in mind we've seen like Solo Leveling together, like we've seen some good stuff, but it's mostly because as you could probably guess, we were watching a harem anime. We were memeing. There were memes. We were doing a little trolling. We did not care. We did not care about anything. Jokes were flying out. We made so many jokes, bro. There's one in joke in our group where we're like, okay, so they don't have a bathroom in the room, but yet they have like 7 monitors. Like 7 different, they have 7 different screen monitors, and they don't have a toilet. Like, bro, it was wild. We were talking about just the room alone. We broke down like electronically and like saw all the weird, like, stupid design thing. Like, everything about it was a blast with my friends. So if you are gonna watch this, honestly, watch it with the boys. It's so dumb. You'll have a great time. um it's just fantastic. Get in a call, watch some dumb stuff, and see what happens. um Pat Labor, the OVA one, uh it's good. Doesn't really have overarching story, but that's also not a thing in Pat Labor for some reason. I kind of wish it was, because it could genuinely be fantastic if it had overarching storytelling. But right now, it's just a solid set of shows. It has the capacity to be really good, but it doesn't fully lean into its concepts, and it doesn't fully lean into its characters. Whereas it almost feels like we reset at the beginning of every episode, and it makes it an easy watch, because you can like leave it for a week and you come back and it feels relatively the same, but it's not as fantastic as I wished. um this one, I genuinely forget its name. That should tell you how memorable it is. It's fine. I remember the animation and character work being solid, but not much else. Broken Blade. Broken Blade. Politics, magic, mecha. There you go. Solid enough. Main character is really bland, though. I'm gonna be frank. Like, he is bland. Yeah. Not much else to say. Probably 6 is the best movie. I watched it in movie format, so I guess just Cry Me a River. I didn't watch it in TV show format. I don't care. So yeah, it's all pretty good. All of this is really interchangeable except for the final movie. That one's the best, as you can probably guess. The climax and ending of character arcs, or what little character arcs there are, provide a nice conclusion, and the ending, like the very, very ending, like I'm talking like the last 20 minutes, are a nice, nice conclusion, right? Dual Parallel Adventure. This is a harem mech show, and it is stupid, and it's funny. It's funny though. It's funny. Like, it's stupid, but it's funny. and the fact that it's stupid and funny just makes it funnier. So, nothing really about it I would say is utterly fantastic. Obviously, the main character is pretty generic, but that's kind of what you expect from this, similar to Issei from Infinite Stratos, being honest. But it's relatively fun. I wouldn't say it's like anything to write home about, but honestly, I quite enjoyed my time with it, and it was a solid watch. Maybe have fun with it with friends once again. GR Giant Robo. I forget which one this is called, but it's the early 2000s anime edition. Um, this one is quite alright. It is there. There. No. There. I enjoyed it, but the mystery was not that engaging and did not provide a lot of substance for the story, which sucks because a lot of the show was devoted towards the mystery. So it gets to the point where it's like, okay, we're devoting all this time to stuff that means, like, to the detriment of other aspects, such as, well, the cast. The cast feels very underdeveloped, and the main character literally got shot in the chest at one point, and I remember, like, the most engaging, the first thing that popped into my head is, oh, that would be a really cool concept for a mecha anime, where like it'd be like post-apocalyptic, and the reason it's post-apocalyptic is because a giant robot like that's controlled by the watch, the pilot would be like, destroy everything, as like a general term to be like, destroy that robot, right? But then he gets shot, so then the robot goes out of control and starts destroying. Like, that was what I got from it. I didn't care. I genuinely thought, damn, I could make a good manga out of this. And that basically summarizes this whole show. It has interesting ideas, it sure does, but it doesn't do enough to execute them. And the finale on top of that is not as satisfying as you wished. Plus, when it devotes so much time to the mystery, the fact that it hinders other parts of the story and in itself is not that engaging kind of just leads you to being like, well, it sure was a show that exists. And, like, obviously I have a review on it. I believe I was more positive in the review, but I'm also more positive in the review now because, I was more positive back then. Anyway, oh boy, this thing. I have a video on this, and it's called, like, the worst mecha of all time. And here's the thing, it actually is. It's worse than this, technically. But, this one fails as a show and, like, episode and whatever. This just, like, hurts my soul to watch. So I kind of just, yeah. So it's like our second worst thing. Ooh, Original Mobile Suit Gundam. This is a solid B tier. It's not better than Mazinger Z, fight me. I don't care. I like super robots more than real robots. Cry me a river. But no, actually, I do like the character dynamics. I just wish that the pacing was better. And this show, it has some of the benefits of an overarching story, but it also has some of the negatives, and it also has some benefits of being a Monster of the Week show, but also has some of the negatives. And it doesn't really, it drags its feet a lot, which obviously, isn't a bad thing, but it also feels rather underwhelming when you're like, oh, this is Gundam. This is the thing that started the real robot craze. You're given less levity just by how people talk about it. However, if you do want to see it in its full glory, might I recommend the movies. Now, movie 1 and so I think 2 is the worst of the movies, but just because that middle section is generally kind of boring. Well, not boring, but it has less meaningful moments which will stick out in your head over a long period of time, leading to you remembering the movie as overall solid, but nothing memorable to truly draw your brain back to it again and again and again, right? But the the movies fix the pacing of the show. Now it feels much cleaner to watch. They cut a lot of the fat, they cut a lot of the BS, and you're just given a solid product now. On top of that, they clean up a little bit of the animation. The soundtrack is super good. I was doing a little bit of research on this. The soundtrack went triple platinum in Japan because it's just that dang good at the time. Obviously, it was a fantastic movie, and I truly do recommend it. If you want to get into Gundam, obviously there's alternate universes. We'll get into those later. But if you want to get into the Universal Century, just watch the movies. They are the best way to experience it. Okay? Or the best way to experience original Mobile Suit Gundam. We can talk about Zeta movies because they are interesting. Zeta Gundam. It sure is a show. Here's the thing, right? I like it more. No. You ain't getting past Get a Robo, buddy. Alright, listen. It's a good show. It's good, and it's better than the original Gundam. The overarching story is quite engaging, but the main character, I do not find very... I find him interesting, but sort of in the same way that, like, you find that one kid in high school who, like, would just, like, say the dumbest things possible and get in the fights. You find him interesting, right? That's basically Camille. Like, listen, I don't hate the guy, but I didn't find him too engaging. On top of that, the side cast is not fantastic. Bright Noah is unironically the most interesting and fleshed out character in the show, which is kind of weird, but you also naturally have an attachment to him. On top of that, I do like the position Char is in now, or Char. So switching him to more of a mentor role is pretty engaging and provides a good, unique look at the storytelling. But I don't personally find it that engaging. I do think the political messaging is pretty alright. About, like, the Titans becoming just as bad as Xeon, yada yada yada. You know what I'm talking about, right? And then the ending just kind of falls apart, though. Like, I'm gonna be frank. It leads me to wondering, it leads to me going, oh, great. That's what I wanted. And you just kind of breathe in and out through your teeth as you're watching it, and you're like, great. They're all dead. Not very satisfying. Camille's in a coma, and it's like, okay, I know people love to give Tomino, the guy who directs Gundam, these, like, really, he's Kill 'Em All Tomino, that's so cool, that's so dark, and, like, Zeta Gundam is so dark, and the ending's dark. It's not as dark as some of the other mecha we'll talk on this list. I'm thinking of the one with the red water. You know which one I'm talking about. And it kind of just feels underwhelming because it feels like, oh yeah, technically we won, but it doesn't. And it then kind of transitions in the double Zeta, which was really jarring, but that's not a fault of Zeta. On top of that, just the kind of sour and mean tone of the show kind of carries over, and it just doesn't really... It's not a very enjoyable watching experience. Like, you're enjoying it because it is a good quality show, but it just kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth, and you just kind of have to roll with it. Now, I don't know. Some people do prefer more depressing shows. It might be your thing if that's the case, but obviously, as you can probably guess, it doesn't jive with me very well personally. So I put it in B tier because I do understand quality, but doesn't mean I'm automatically gonna like it. Origin. Oh, Origin is really good, bro. Like it's really good. Char is he's the most interesting character in the Universal Century. I'm sorry. Like, there's the reason the Char clones are in every single Gundam. There's always a masked man. Why? Because Char was that popular and because he was that interesting. Okay? Sure, technically every other pilot is an Amuro clone, but like they're all weird. Like, tried to compare Kira to Amuro, it's like, okay, sure. I mean, technically they are. But like then you get like other guys who are compared to Char, and I'm like, yeah. This is the Char clone of the show. And guess what? It works. You wanna know why? Because he works. He does his job fantastically. He's a good main character. He's engaging. The politics are pretty thought provoking. Seeing seeing how it like plays out and watching him climb up the ranks and do all this stuff, it's always just solid. It's just solid. That's the only way to put it. Everything about it is solid, and I am thoroughly satisfied with what the show did, with its characters, with its plot, with its animation, leading it to being A tier. Back Arrow. Back Arrow's pretty alright. Nothing too crazy, but it's a solid show. Obviously, once again, the main cast is not as fleshed out as I wish, and I kind of would prefer if the main character was a bit more dynamic with how he reacts to certain situations. Although the voice acting does try to carry it a little more than the animation and the writing, which, credit where it's due. The voice actors all do their job relatively well in this show, and, they're doing the best they can, right? Obviously, the politics in this show are not great. But there is an intrigue of the show, which does keep you engaged, relatively speaking, but not enough where you go, oh, yes, I need to watch more of this show, right? It would be relatively skippable, and I would not consider it a must-watch. Singular point, I did not like the show. I gave it a 3. There you go. Maybe I'll rewatch it someday, but for now, it feels like the writer got a degree in quantum physics and thinks he's super smart. So good job, bro. You sure did prove me wrong by making your show needlessly complex. And dude, it's a Godzilla show. Why I was talking about this prior. Why does every single like Godzilla thing need to be like super complex now? Like, bro, dude, everyone loves -1 and everyone loves Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. Okay? Both of those ain't some, this is quantum physics times hyperdrive, yada, yada, yada. Like, bro, it's not word vomit on my screen because no one cares about that. I'm sorry. We're here for the big lizard. Okay? The big lizard is why we're here. So make the big lizard cool. And then you don't have the big lizard that cool? How do you make the big lizard not that cool, bro? Why do you do, like, I'm switching my brain to monkey mode. I don't care. Bro, why big lizard no cool? Why big lizard not that cool? He needs to be cool. That's his whole job. And like when he is on screen, he's pretty cool. But he's not on screen as much as you wish. And the characters are fine. But it's a mystery show and a Godzilla show. And then the mystery isn't about Godzilla or uncovering Godzilla or making it unique. It's about the fact that like he's like fourth dimensional. And it's like, okay, bro, why? Like, you're trying to fight Goku or something? Like, bro, why do you get... Like, it's just adding for no reason. Like, I can find some super exotic wood chips to smoke a pork chop on, but at the end of the day, a pork chop is going to taste like a pork chop either way. Like, obviously, the wood chips do matter to some extent, but guess what? If you burn the pork chop, it don't matter how good the wood chips were. Okay? Like, if you burn the bloody pork chop, it don't matter how expensive your wood chips were. You burnt the pork chop. So good job. Good job. You somehow messed up Godzilla. I don't know how you keep doing it. It's not that hard. Toho, hire me. I will gladly direct a Godzilla anime. And he will fight Gamera. You know what? I will run to be president of the United States. Guys, if I get elected, I will make a Godzilla vs. Gamera movie. Dygard, it's a super robot with real robot consequences, and it's awesome. Main character feels the main character is engaging, not too engaging. The side cast is definitely more dynamic than him. He's obviously very boastful and proud and loud, which is typically what you want in a protagonist. Whereas the calmer, quieter, uh, more diligent side casts really do steal the show sometimes. But watching him bounce off of his co-pilots is really engaging, and it just leads to an overall good time. 86 is genuinely awesome. It's a fantastic show with good drama, good characters. The main flaw with it is not even their fault. It's the fault of, hey, the animation studio kind of like released the show before we could even finish making episode 12. So episode 12 premiered like 4 months after like episode 11 of season 2. And you just kind of go like, oh, shoot. Also, it's only 24 episodes, which is pretty light in the grand scheme of things. So it's a good watch. I would highly recommend it. Double Zeta, I like Double Zeta as much as normal Zeta. Fight me. It's just as good. The beginning half is very light, and then it gets dark. But guess what? I think the brighter... I kind of do prefer that overall tone shift rather than dark, 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 and Camille's dead. Like, or, sorry, not dead, comatose. Like, I do acknowledge that I think Zeta has more important beats, but I think that Double Zeta is honestly a good show, and I do think it's highly underrated in the mecha scene because it is viewed as like, oh, we were too edgy in Zeta, so now we went way too jokey. No, the first half is very lighthearted, but the second half, bodies drop, and then that also makes the first half even more light, because when the light meets the heavy, it makes the heavy feel all the more heavy, and the light feel all the more light, you know? When there's sad moments and happy moments, they naturally create a better contrast than if it was just dark, 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 right? So obviously I sound like I'm talking out of my butt, but it is a good show, and I would recommend it. It's really good if you're trying to complete everything. So yeah. Oh boy, Kokori's Dawn's Island. It's all right. Nah, it's a good, solid film. I wouldn't like throw, like I wouldn't throw myself back in the theater to see it, but that's pretty good. Amuro's character development is really nice. I do find the other pilot, I forget his name, he's pretty engaging. I like his character motivation about protecting those kids and all that other jazz. It's a solid show. Trapped in a dating sim. Main character is evil. Evil. Okay, no, he's petty evil, and I love it. It's great. Watching him mess with... This is oddly enough, like, this is a power fantasy, and it works really well at what it does. So I must say it is great. Next one, Megaton Musashi. This show is underrated as all heck. Because let's face facts, you did not know what I just said. Megaton Musashi is a post-apocalyptic mecha anime. It's a super robot show. It knows it's a super robot show, and it loves super robots. It wears that on its sleeve, and it holds its head up with pride. And I respect it. It does its job. It has good characters. Are they the best in the world? Nah. But the romance subplot, actually pretty alright. The action, pretty good. The motivations for the characters, pretty good. Obviously, not everything is great. The bad guy turned good attempt at redemption is not as well off as I preferred it, but most of the show is very, very good. And I think it is stronger when it's just starting out, and when it's just ending. That middle portion can drag a little bit, but I do relatively enjoy what they're doing. And like, I know it is a promotional anime for a video game, but I had a solid time with it. There is no English dub, by the way. So that could also be a turnoff for people. I fully understand why, but just FYI, right? Which, I mean, honestly, most of these have some sort of dub, which will get the job done. So, all right, cool. Gridman. I don't like the ending of Gridman. I do like the ending here, and then Universe is boom. So this one, ending bad. Fight me. I don't care what you say. I hate that trope. I understand that the show is of relatively good quality, but the ending I do not like. I think it is stupid, and I find the main villain's character arc rather annoying. Which, listen, this is all personal. I know what I just said sounds like personal taste because it is. So yeah, in my opinion, I don't like the ending. It kind of sours the whole show, and just doesn't really do its job. Daizenon is just mecha. It's just a mecha. There's no other way to describe it. I like the cast. They're relatively developed. The romance plot is kind of fun. And yeah, its ending doesn't suck. So, it goes up. Universe, obviously the movie to bring it all together. It's alright. It exists. I don't hate it. Don't love it. I don't hate the ending, so it is up there and it's relatively good quality. The main characters struggle with Gridman, and him as a person compared to him with Gridman it's engaging. It asks a unique question and it tries its best to answer it, and I think it succeeds at what it does. So I'm good. Go there. Muv-Luv. Ooh, Muv-Luv. I like Muv-Luv. It looks bad. I'm gonna be frank. This show does not have budget. Budget where? This show budget and show, those two things are not there. They do not coincide. But apart from that, everything's good. It actually does a really good job of dropping you into this world, and I know that sounds like a bad thing, but bro, keep in mind this is an anime adaptation of a light novel series which never got a light game, the text game, a storybook game. I don't know what they're called. I'm sorry, my knowledge is fading me. But yeah, it's like an adaptation of a story based game that's part 3 in a 4-part saga, and it's huh? It's kind of what? But here's the thing, describing that to you, you'd think all would be all over the place. You would have no idea what you're talking about, and you're just confused all the time. But it's not. It provides a decent enough plot and provides you with enough information to fully understand and comprehend what you need to do in order to enjoy the show. And it does a really good job. On top of that, the character work, the main character is naturally just more interesting because it definitely feels like he's already gone through some development. And on top of that, the side cast is relatively enjoyable. Their quirks are not necessarily unique to them, but they provide enough interactions between them and between their unique character quirks to allow them to, fulfill the role of side cast relatively adequately. And it's not really anything poor or anything to necessarily imply that there's something polarizing to the show, but obviously you can get a little confused, which I do not fault you on. Next is ATM Warrior. Yes, I call it that. I don't know why I call it that. I think it's funny, and I will continue to call it that until I die. Show's good. Discount code Gios. Nothing horrible about it. Nothing too spectacular about it. Does its job. Animation is really good, and soundtrack is really good. Actually, no, the OVA is kind of bad. I'm gonna be frank. Yeah, there. But the actual show is relatively engaging, and the main cast doesn't provide enough substance to carry the story. But it's genuinely decent enough, and it provides a notable enough ride for it to make it its way into B tier. You're bad. I hate you. I forget your name, but I remember the pain you caused me while watching you. F. You're technically above that. Technically that, but you do not sit. You do not rank with. You may sit at this tier list, but we do not consider you. We do not grant you the rank of Mecha. Oh god. Noir. Cindy Noir. I just call it Noir. It's good. It's obviously not the best mecha of the year, but you can also see me go more into depth into more modern day mecha anime because obviously I have a thing where I go through all the mecha of the year, personal recommendations, personal favorite, all that jazz, right? So yeah. Anyway, Witch from Mercury. OG Witch from Mercury season 1, S tier, like actual SS tier. Like genuinely SSS tier. It might even be up here if we're being honest, but I don't. Yeah. Animation solid, character work solid. The protagonist is incredibly endearing. Her dynamic with her bride is engaging, and you want to see them succeed. So, season 2 is worse. It is worse. The ending is not as great, but there's nothing I can really say that is too notably wrong with it. The ending kind of trips over its own feet, but still provides a satisfying enough conclusion to the story arcs, meaning that, hey, even if it gets some stuff wrong, it gets more stuff right, and it does that stuff really, really well. So, it's obviously the bottom of S tier, but, that's still S tier, right? So, Prologue is really good, but yeah, it provides a really good mystery to it. Also, it should have just been that should have literally just been like make the first season 14 episodes or make it 13 or whatever, and just have that be episode 1, because now people have to go out of their way to watch it. And it's worth watching. It sets up a lot of things. It sets up character motivation and intrigue for the show, and you want to watch the show because I watched the prologue. I watched the prologue and then went, damn, the show's going to be good, isn't it? And then guess what? I was proven right. So, but yeah. Bullbuster. It's a mediocre show. It does have a real emphasis on business, which does provide a unique aspect. Obviously not to the enjoyable factor that Dygard is, but it does provide enough that I think B tier is a solid enough placement. Code Geass. Alright, bite me. Code Geass is one of the best shows ever made, let alone one of the best mecha ever made, and I might be saying that about a few things later on, so don't you worry. But yeah, it's utterly fantastic. I think it's so good. The ending is fantastic. Yes, the middle can sometimes chew, can sometimes drag, but it's not horrible, and there's nothing about it that would say is such a major flaw that I genuinely dislike that part of the show. There's nothing about it that I genuinely dislike. Obviously, there are some plot points that I go, but that's also every show. So I don't know what else to say, because everything else about it is incredible. Go watch it. That's all I can say. Lelouch, awesome. Sidecast, awesome. Plot, awesome. The political drama between nations, fleshed out, developed, and you get a full understanding. Everything about it is good. Everything. So why not put it in S tier where it belongs? Because it's a fantastic show. Also, the ending is so good. The ending of R2 is genuinely one of the best anime endings I've ever seen. So yeah, fight me. Next is Lelouch of the Resurrection. Obviously not as good as the show, but it's still a nice quality movie. I think I'm gonna bump it down though to A tier. Yes, it's more characters doing more fantastic things on a new plot, and it's set up for another Code Geass sequel. Thank goodness we have season 3 of Code Geass. It's gonna be fantastic. I have so much hope for it. Movies are quite solid. It's obviously not as good as the show, but I really do enjoy everything about that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to recognize the poster. I do not remember. Shoot. So I can't rate the films individually, but as a whole, they are a solid B tier. But yeah, the movie's really good. It does get a little confusing on where they are in the timeline of Code Geass, but you kind of just have to accept it. And if the thing is too, it takes place during the time skip between R1 and R2. I didn't know that at the beginning, so that's why it caught me off guard. But the minute I realized that information, it suddenly made so much more sense. So I would just say they are worth a watch to get the full Code Geass experience. But if you just dive into the show and only the show in one movie, you'll be satisfied. Brave Bond, I think. I don't know if that's the name of the robot or whatever, but it's really good. It's a solid super robot show. Character dynamic is not that great though. Like, I do not care about the side cast, and even the main characters are not that engaging. And I'm not like, oh, I need to watch more of them. I'm just kind of like, okay, you did your job, and now the show's over. Good job. Pack your bags. You earned that. You earned that paycheck. Build Fighters, technically my first mecha I watched intending it to be mecha, right? It's like a sports anime, but with Gundams. And that's cool. Gundams are pretty cool, guys. So, yeah. There you go. Oh, Cross Ange. This is a mix between Kill la Kill and Mecha. Like, it's literally Kill la Kill Mecha, and it's great. I love it. It's fun. It's a fun show. It's absurd, and it's absurd in the best way possible. And the main character is kind of nuts for a little while and is really engaging at that point in time. And then you see her slowly start to change. You see her dynamic with the main male character. And like their bond starts to form. It's all good. Everything about it is good. And the ending is really, really satisfying. And I'm glad. I'm glad literally I got to watch it. So, Shinjeg. So this is a sequel to a 1970s TV show called Steeljeg, I believe. And I've never seen it, and yet I still love the show and think it's awesome. So that should kind of tell you the quality of this show. You don't need to watch Steeljeg, even though it apparently ended on a cliffhanger. I found this out recently. So like that TV show ended on a cliffhanger, right? This is a sequel to it. So it's a sequel to that show, but yet I never saw that show, and I still love this show. That should tell you to the quality of it. It's bombastic, it's chaotic, but in the best way possible. Its chaos is controlled chaos, which you may think, those two words make no sense going together. You are right, but guess what? They somehow made it work anyway. On top of that, the soundtrack for it is just again bombastic, loud, and in your face. Just like the main character, and just like the main character, it's a joy to watch this ride all the way through. You're engaged with it, you're excited about watching it, and you always go, wow, that was a good episode. And then the ending hits and you go, wow, that was incredibly satisfying, and I am glad to put this in B tier. Alright. Unicorn. Oh boy. Oh boy. It's a good show, but it's not really anything too spectacular. The main villain is not threatening, which is not what you want in a TV show. He is not threatening enough to warrant... Like, he does threatening stuff, but even when he's on screen, I'm like, wow, golly gee, whatever will I do? Exist? Wow. And the main character is also bland. Also, the, like, dynamic he has with the main female character is also just bland. Like I'm talking, like, boiled pasta bland. So, yeah. Anyway, Iron Blood and Orphans. This is a fantastic entry into the Mecha franchise. I genuinely do recommend this to people who want to get into Gundam. Second season is probably a little worse than the first, but it also has a very bitter... It's a bitter ending, but it's bitter in, like... It's bitter in a different way than Zeta, so I kind of look at it differently. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's different overall, and you just kind of go, oh, man, That was an ending. And apart from that, though, keep in mind that ending is like what, 4 episodes, if that, where I would consider it like kind of being bad. And keep in mind it's like 50 episodes, so that's literally less than 10%. um, just under 10% of the show is what I would consider not that great, right? So yeah. Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is so good. You kind of wish it wasn't tied to the Universal Century, because then people would actually watch it, because people go, oh, it's part of the Universal Century, I need to know quantum physics. No, you can watch Thunderbolt without knowing anything about the Universal Century. Just dive into it, you'll enjoy it. Bro, it has a jazz soundtrack, man. That should tell you everything you need about the show. It is what it is. It's not just a Gundam show. It's just a good show with a good soundtrack, good characters, good animation. Everything about it is good, and I am happy to have said I enjoyed watching the full show. Anyway, Pat Labor TV show, I believe. Yes, yeah. I think it's better than the OVA. I gotta be honest. There's a little more overarching storytelling. It's not fantastic, but it's there. Where's Pat Labor? I'm trying to find it so I can put it literally just above. There you are. Yeah, it's just better. Actually, it's boom. I quite enjoy it. I also like the main female protagonist. She's really engaging and really endearing, and you want to see her succeed at what she does. On top of that, the side cast is more fleshed out, and their dynamic is, you just generally grow closer to them because you're with them for like 50 episodes instead of the 7 of the OVA, so you care more for them. Anyway, oh, we're talking about Ava. Oh boy. Boom. How many subscribers am I willing to lose? Oh boy. That's how I choose where I put End of Ava. Sure, why not there? So, I don't like the end of Evangelion. I don't like any end of Evangelion, if I'm being honest. None of them crack an 8. So, the last 2 episodes of the TV show, kind of bad. I would not give them an 8 out of 10. Not even in the slightest. Honestly, might even give them a 5. End of Evangelion, don't like that much. I think it's overly pretentious. I'm just gonna be frank. That's also my personal opinion. I don't care if you interpret it differently. Guess what? I interpret it as BS. So, yeah. Also, on top of that, sure, it makes me feel empty at the end. Cool, it made its job, and it made me think, and it's like, oh, it's super bittersweet. Just because something is bitter doesn't mean it's good, bro. Like, I don't eat whole lemons, even though they're bitter and sour, just like this ending, okay? This ending is literally a lemon. Yes, it's good, technically, and it provides a lot of things, technically, but I'd never eat a raw lemon. That's the best way to describe it. I would never eat a whole lemon. This show is like eating a whole lemon. It's sour, it's bitter, it don't taste that great, and to be honest, I don't know why I did it, but it is useful, and it does provide us a conclusion to Ava. It is technically better than the last 2 episodes, but the show is better by a mile. Next, 1.0. I like 1.0, but it just kind of does feel like a rehash, but enough differences to make it cooler. 2.0, okay, here's the thing. I think 1.0 is better than 2.0, but 2.0's ending honestly makes it better. Like, I'm sorry, that climax cannot be beat by whatever you do. Like, it's just that good. 46 hours is a failure. I do not care about the side cast of 3.0 and why they're sad and mad at the main protagonist and want to murder the main protagonist. I don't care. So, Cry Me a River. Anyway, 3.0 is really good. It's really, really good. I love 3.0. It does what End of Evangelion does, except it has, like, more struggle for Shinji, and seeing him kind of come to terms with the fact that he's not really a hero in this film is really engaging, and you do feel incredible sympathy for him. Whereas in End of Evangelion, I don't really feel sympathy for, like, anyone other than Misato, and she gets blown up. So, you know. Anyway, as I stated prior, I don't like any ending of Evangelion that much, but I like it more than this one. This is technically the best ending of Eva, but that's not saying much for me personally. I gotta be honest, man, it's not great. I hate, bro, all of Eva's endings are bad. It's either Shinji. I'm not in. You know what? I'm not gonna get into it. Maybe that's its own video. Maybe I need to make a video defending my talking points later on. Either way, let's. Gun X Sword. Yeah, Gun X Sword is dope. It's cowboys with robots. Bro, it's just cool. There's no other way to describe it. Also, everything makes sense. Thankfully, you are provided enough information to understand the world, and with that, it is easy to follow, but not because it's not complex. It is complex, but you're given enough information, enough time frame, and it's explained to you well enough that you don't need a wiki or a YouTube video or anything to fully understand it. So even though there's a lot of information, it puts it in a digestible format, and everything makes sense. Why is this character doing this thing? Because of this reason. That makes sense. You don't agree with it, but it makes sense. And the whole show is like that. Everything about it. So it's a solid show, and it's very easy to get into, and you'll fully understand what's going on, and there's no super complicated, the twists, they feel like twists, but then you go back and you go, oh, that wasn't actually a twist, it was just foreshadowed. It's good. Everything about it is good. Also, Cowboy and Mecha. I feel like I need to stress that. Gurren Lagann is one of the best shows ever made in human history. Fight me. I am so blown away by it that I worry that if I ever watch it again, it will not be as good as I remember it. Because I remember it being literally one of the best shows ever made. I am going to rewatch it eventually. I'm going to break it down eventually and maybe even give you guys a review on it. But from where I stand right now, it is genuinely one of the best shows ever made. Period. It's fantastic. It's utterly fantastic. If you love Gurren Lagann, which you will, because you like good TV shows, then you'll like. Anyway, this one, Childhood's End, is pretty good. It's a compact movie. Oh, and then this one is the iconic. It's weird. The ending of this movie is more iconic than technically the original ending of Gurren Lagann, with Super Tengen Top and Gurren Lagann, but I don't like it as much as the show, but it's very good. It's obviously a little too compact because it's taking a 27 episode show and cramming it in 2 movies, so obviously they skip over a lot of things, but it's still a good package, and it's utterly fantastic, and I fully am happy with it. This one is basically the same as Unicorn. Where's Unicorn? There you are. Shebang. Full Metal Panic. 7 out of 10 show. Shebang. And bro, this one is probably worse because it ends on the biggest cliffhanger imaginable, and I can't find the English manga anywhere, so I'm kind of just screwed. So that's nice. Thanks, guys. But yeah. Character dynamic between the main protagonist and main female protagonist, really good. As they grow as people together, you really do want them to always be okay and always be happy. Obviously, that's not the case because it's a TV show, but being endeared to the characters, should say something, right? Anyway, Halfway. I don't like Halfway as much as it feels like the Gundam fandom does. It's a good movie, but not good enough for me to go, yeah, I want to watch that again, right? Also, the second movie will be out eventually. Char's Counterattack, A tier. Fantastic conclusion to the beginning Gundam saga where Char and Amuro finally face off in an epic duel. This film is almost pure spectacle. There's a little bit of story, but you're here to watch Char and Amuro throw down for one last time, and it delivers. 8th MS team, God, romance, Gundam do not equal good. So, please don't do that. This one, romance, Gundam, actually good. I like it, but it's not really my thing. The slower pace is engaging, but not great. There is some tragedy to it, but the tragedy is also followed up by, damn, why didn't they just do X, Y, or Z? Or why couldn't you just let them catch the W? Like, I get the point that, like, oh, war is bad, but, like, there are, you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the ending. Like, it's like, just give the dude the W. Like, you gave him an L, and then you gave him a second L. And it's like, was that really necessary? Like, did you need to do that? I'm trying not to spoil too much, but if you've seen the show, you understand what I mean. Like, you didn't need to give him 2 L's back to back. And, like, I get the point. I understand the point of it, but it's a little too sour, and it kind of just feels needlessly mean. That's what I want to say. And I get the point is that war is needlessly mean, but you can demonstrate that in more ways than you yourself being meaninglessly mean, you know? Like, I get the point of it, but just because I understand something don't mean I'm gonna like it, you know? Oh, this one's bad. So notice how I keep saying the romance plot is bad? Insert bad romance plot here. This thing is like, one of the main components is, like, romance. And also, bro, how does the Gundam that can shoot a literal nuclear warhead at you have no stage presence? How is that possible? They wrote a story where somehow the Gundam that shoots a nuclear bomb at you does not feel very powerful nor imposing. That's like a feat in of itself. Like, F91 is pretty alright. I enjoyed it. Is it great? Nah, but it's not horrible. Shebang. Also, it should have been, if it was a 50-episode TV show, rather than just that one movie, you can clearly tell by the writing that, like, some of the turns from hero to villain and villain to hero would have worked if it was an actual TV show, but since it's like a 2-hour film, if that, like, it doesn't feel that great, you know? Oh, Victory Gundam. It's pretty solid. I haven't seen a crazy amount of it, but from what I've seen, I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. Gunbuster, overrated as all hell. Bro, you guys are like, oh, this is better than Ava. Nah. Or it's just as good as Ava. Yeah, end of Ava, you bloody liars. And then this one is like Gunbuster, but more confusing, and I like it less. And the characters are less good. The characters are worse, and they're just not as engaging. So yay. This is 26 minutes of Gundam. That's it. That's the best way to describe it. It's good. It's alright, 26 minutes, but, you know. Ooh. Alright, Alphadon Zero, I want to say. I got that wrong, but I love the dynamic of Super Robot versus Real Robot between the two warring factions. And, okay, so it makes every single encounter between our main characters and the antagonists feel very tense, because you know they have a mechanical advantage, and not in the sense that, like, oh, they may have more mobile suits, but we have armor array, the gun. No. They literally have, like, better, like, it's honestly like trying to have. It honestly feels like watching Zaku's try to take on Mazinger Z, if that makes sense. Every single boss battle feels like a boss battle, and it is great. I'm so happy about that dynamic. The rest of the show is not super fantastic, but that kind of gimmick alone really does provide a enjoyable enough ride for me to recommend it relatively high enough. Also, it's an original mecha anime with like good animation, so it is a solid one to get into because you don't need to worry about, oh, how does this connect to this one or anything like that. It's just a solid entry point, right? GR Giant Robo the Day stood still. Everything about this is good. Animation good, character good, everything. Writing good. The relationship, when I say relationship, I don't mean like lovey-dovey, like more like guardian and kid between like the main protagonist and his I forget her name, but her like his guardian, right? It's really wholesome and really engaging. And you want them all to survive and you want everyone to be happy, but you don't get that. So I'm not saying they all die, I'm just saying that like stuff hits the fan, right? So Darling in the Franxx. Oh my goodness. If this just stopped at episode 16, it might straight up be an A tier. But it didn't stop at episode 16, so it's probably... The ending's kind of bad, so I'm honestly going to bump it down again to B tier. Maybe even... nah. Ending is bad. Ending is very bad. But rest show up to 16, good. That's why the manga is better. And I say this as someone who normally likes the anime a bit more of like TV shows. The manga just stops at 16. It also adds more like stuff in the middle, so it makes 16 feel more like a finale. And yeah, it was just really good. Ooh, oh boy. Macross. Or Robotech. I view it as Robotech just because that's what I viewed it as. But original Super Dimension Fortress Macross is honestly another S tier. It's so good, man. Robotech holds up surprisingly well. Okay, it is technically Macross, but I know it as Robotech. That's what I view it as. I have seasons 2 and 3 of Robotech down there. And the original Super Dimension Fortress Macross, man, you want the characters to succeed, you want them to survive, and like it holds up incredibly well for what came out in the 80s. I would recommend it to nearly anyone. It's serviceable enough, and it's not almost too anime. Like okay, some shows are like too anime for the average person because they'll be turned off by either fan service or like just like yelling attack names or weird stuff. But this is strictly just a show that is like, it's technically anime because it was animation from Japan, but it doesn't have any goofy tropes that I would be like, oh, like anyone can pretty much pick up this show and watch it. It's a very good gateway mecha anime. So yeah, Do You Remember Love? It's a solid movie. Retells the story, but it's obviously a condensed format, right? So you just kind of have to roll with it, right? Anyway, season 2 is probably the worst season of Robotech. I'm gonna be frank. And then season 3 does not hit as high highs, but it is relatively good. And it provides a decent enough conclusion if you have to watch past the first season, or just watch Fortress Dimension Macross and just stop there. But yeah. Last one, Gundam Seed. From what I've seen of it, it's pretty good. It's pretty solid. I have not fully completed it yet, so FYI, please don't be bad. I know I've heard the rumors, I've heard the he said, she said say of Gundam Seed being horrible. From what I've seen, it's relatively good and provides a good update to a classic Gundam show. Like, it's taken the classic Gundam format and reapplying it with modern day technology, audiences, political drama, all that jazz. So it's a good update. Please don't be bad. I'm begging you, please. And next one is Promare. One of the best movies ever made. I love it. It's fantastic. It's energy. That is the best way to describe it. Energy. Okay? The character dynamics on point. The character development, not the best, but like literally everything else is firing on all cylinders, and it just runs beautifully. Like, I have a DVD version of this. I got like or it's either DVD or Blu-ray. You play it on your TV, and it looks crisp as all. It's beautiful. This film is beautiful with a natural energy and charisma that makes you want to that makes you want to follow this movie and keep track of it. And that's the whole movie. You're engaged the entire time. You're excited about it. You're happy about it. You want this. You want to see this film. And then when you watch it, you want to see this film again. It's such a good film. I love it. It's genuinely one of my favorite movies of all time. It's so good. Now, obviously, I'm more of I like my shows to be bombastic and a little bit crazy with a high energy to them. But I think even if you're a fan of more slowly paced shows, I think that overall you will have an enjoyable time in this, just due to the sheer charisma that this film exudes all the time. So yeah, that's my entire list. I am really happy with it. Obviously, it's ever expanding, right? But for now, if you guys have any opinions that you think are wrong, tell me. And if you like End of Evangelion, please tell me why. And without further ado, I will see you guys later. Peace out.